What is up, Vigilantes? Welcome back to a brand new Arrow review for episode 6 titled Reset. And I have to say right off the bat, I didn't actually expect an episode like this. However, when we learned about Quentin Lance returning, I couldn't quite exactly figure out, like a lot of other people, how that would be happening. And it appears that it was in a time loop episode. Now, this episode made for some very important things, some more important than what I realized from even the first 15-20 minutes. I thought it was not necessarily a filler episode to begin with, because I knew it was going to have some important context, but it didn't really dawn upon, I guess, the audience until at least halfway through where they were going to be going with things and why this was exactly happening. But even towards the end of the episode, we got so much clarity to what is going on with the Monitor and realizations for Oliver and Team Arrow that we're really stepping in, or should I say taking the final steps into Crisis on Infinite Earths. And this episode, I feel like personifies the steps everyone, or just more importantly Oliver, has taken, and the strides he's just generally taken into his preparation for Crisis. And it's all culminating in this one lesson of an episode, I guess I would say. So before we get into the details of this episode, guys, be sure to like this video if you do go on to enjoy it. My flash review is up, by the way. I'll leave it in the cards above. By the way, sorry there's no face cam, because as you guys know, I'm normally on camera during my reviews, but there's a bit of technical difficulties today. But, you know, it shouldn't really affect the review in terms of what I usually go about doing in it, which is, you know, breaking down the episode. So as I said, towards the beginning of this episode, when Oliver was waking up and, you know, he tried to tell the kids who just walked through the door that he was tranked, and everyone was just not really knowing what he was talking about, whether that's when he met Diggle at the party and you had Diggle and Lila, you know, just kind of questioning Oliver, or just giving some random answers that Lila has been working with the Monitor as a double agent. It just kind of appeared as some kind of dreamy situation, and I think we could all kind of guess that this was something concocted by the Monitor, especially given how things had ended. And one of the nicest things this allowed the episode to do was to introduce Papa Lance back again, and it felt so great seeing Captain Lance. So in this iteration, instead of Diaz killing him, he survived, and essentially in every single iteration of this time loop, there was a hostage situation at the SCPD, they wanted the mayor, and every single time it turned out that Captain Lance would somehow end up dying, which usually reset the time loop. Now overall, I think there was around 7, like literally 7 different resets of that time loop. In the second one, that's when Oliver found that Laurel was under the building, and initially I thought, okay, this is just going to be like a, you know, different iteration of Laurel, but it turned out to be the same one, because as we kind of found out by the end, it turns out that there were certain realizations for both of them to have. Even though this was more of a reward for Laurel not betraying Oliver when Monitor and Lila asked her to. I'm glad that was a test, by the way, because, you know, if Laurel would have done that again, then she would have just been like her old self. So yeah, it made sense that, you know, the Monitor wanted to test her that way, but it was also a nice way for Laurel to have some feelsy scenes. But not only was it, you know, a reward, I do believe for Laurel, in the scenes that she did get before she returned, before Oliver did, that it was kind of not necessarily a test, but a revelation for her as well, because Quentin did say to her that she's a hero, and when he said that, she kind of had this epiphany that because he said it, it meant that it was so for her, and she thanked him. She never had a chance to thank him. So I believe like that, this kind of was that moment in Arrow where Laurel's redemption arc is properly complete. Of course, you could argue, you know, that was done before this, but there was a bit of up in the air moments, like for example when the Monitor asked her to betray Oliver, and even though we found out last episode she didn't do that, there was still that closure that just needed to happen for Laurel, and, you know, it was just nice seeing her get it. It really feels complete now, and I'm just really happy with how her character ended up, and it just makes perfect sense for the person she ends up becoming one day. Like we saw last season, she's still protecting Star City in 2040. However, around after the 4th attempt, where we had a lot of the feelsy moments already between Laurel and Papa Lance, like when she explained to him that he was a ghost and he said that's the best way I could have gone, one of my favorite lines of the episode. That's when he actually found the mercenary hideout by tracing the bomb chemical signature back to the building, and that is when that bomb explodes, and things got even more interesting from here on out, because that's when Lila arrives, the real Lila, and had to kind of point it out to Oliver that he's missing the point, that he can't fight this. And that kind of gave us essentially, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like it was kind of obvious as to what Oliver had to realize, or should I say accept, and that was his own fate, but through, in this example, accepting the death of Captain Lance. So in that 5th attempt, Oliver did identify that this is a test, because he said, like, from one of the first moments he met the Monitor, he's basically been conducting tests. So from this point onwards, Oliver really had to figure it out for himself, but he still got a bit of spoon feeding from Lila in the bunker, where she pointed out that Oliver still needs to understand that no good comes from the struggle, and that the only way to win is to accept the inevitable. And that was a really hard pill for Oliver to swallow, so to speak, because yet again he tried to save Captain Lance. And by the way, I really love this action scene. It was more or less no cuts from the camera. I mean, towards the latter of it there was, to show different people kind of marching in, but man, like, this was such a well filmed Arrow action sequence of Captain Lance being like dragged by Oliver, and you know, Oliver really not wanting to give up his life and trying to make him survive. This also involved that trick shot arrow that disabled the multiple guns, and that was just really cool. I mean, I just want to see more stuff like this, and hopefully we'll get crazy stuff like that in Crisis. I mean, well, of course we will. We're going to see some crazy stuff going down in that crossover. But this is when Captain Lance says, "I'll see you on the other side, Oliver." And in this moment, I just almost said to myself, like, I bet he actually will, because not that Oliver realizes at the moment that he's probably going to end up in some kind of paradise dimension or whatever, but I think in that scene, if we do even get this scene, which I'm sure we will, if they're going to do some kind of afterlife for Oliver Queen, we're going to see people like Quentin Lance return for that scene, and probably as many actors as they could have mustered for a really feelsy heartstring kind of moment where we see him united in like a happy place after his death in Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, I can't confirm that. I'm not going to say it's going to exactly go down that way, but, you know, there was a couple of lines where Quentin did say, you know, "I'll see you on the other side," or something like that, and it just made me think that it is very much so foreshadowing the ending. And lastly, everyone, in that 7th attempt, you know, things are completely different. After that talk with Lila and after what happened with Captain Lance, he really has kind of accepted that things are not going to really end the way he kind of wanted. And as he said himself, like, deep down, he still believed that, you know, a little bit of him could fight his fate, and we know that his fate was to die in Crisis. But, you know, I think anyone would kind of still think deep down, well, maybe there's a little bit of a way around this. And even though Oliver hasn't actually shown that really prominently throughout this season, you know, I'm really not surprised that he wanted to still kind of dig his way out somehow. And this moment when Oliver was learning all of these things was really important, because it really is the first time where I feel like the audience has known all of these answers, but this character really hasn't, despite how involved he is in Crisis. Oliver learns that Lila has been working for the Monitor for a while, albeit that we don't know if it has been, you know, just months, or if it's been a couple of years or even longer. I mean, I have a little bit of a debate back and forth about keeping that secret, but hey, I get why Lila has been doing it, and I'm sure Oliver does to an extent, because they both kind of did it for the same reasons, like the same reason why Oliver left Felicity in that cabin, to protect, you know, their family, but also the multiverse. And this next moment where she says that the crisis is coming, there is no stopping it, and Oliver replies saying, you know, "I don't even know what it is." It is a little bit frustrating. Like, why can't they just say that there is a being, like another Monitor, the anti-Monitor, who is just coming? I mean, she did point out that there is an evil coming greater than anything they faced before, but why are they leaving it till the last moment to speak the name? But I will say that they have actually teased him, though. For example, in that book that Thea read out of, we saw a little sketch of like a wrinkly faced version of the Monitor, which, as we know, I mean, which all of you should know, we've had a promotional photo after all of the anti-Monitor. So I guess just we've been given some things, but the characters really can't put the pieces of the puzzle together that there is some big ass wrinkly dude coming with an antimatter wave. But also, I feel as much as this moment gave us answers, or should I just say the characters answers, it didn't really give, you know, the audience answers as much as I guess I wanted. For example, Lila did also say that all the missions so far weren't useless, such as the dwarf star particles, Dr. Wong, even the antimatter weapon that he has Curtis cooking up. They all have a purpose, and I'm sure we're just going to see that unfold in the crossover, as we're literally very close to it now, so I'm sure they're just going to be saved as, you know, explanations for when those episodes are actually airing. But it was satisfying that Oliver finally learns that everything he has kind of done from that moment he left the cabin has been all a part of this bigger test. But I guess he's still not quite definitively ready, because as we learned right at the end, he woke up with Laurel there. And that is when they went out the tent, Mia, Diggle, Connor Hawk, William arrived, and it turns out that they're on Leanne Yu. So, and we knew, if you, as I say, like if you've been paying attention to behind the scenes stuff and whatnot, we knew they were going there. But as to exactly why and what this will actually do for Crisis is definitely a mystery, and I can't wait to find out. Maybe there's going to be some more trials and tribulations that unfold on that island that, you know, really is the final test that makes them, you know, ready for the crossover. But I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below with what that could be. But also just back on this episode, in terms of like me commentating over this episode, you know, there wasn't really so much to say in terms of how it was like a time loop episode. Of course, like I gushed over Papa Lance returning, and, you know, we had the crucial moments of Laurel's revelation and knowing that she is a hero, and this definitively sets her in a hero path going forward all the way up until Star City 2040, or I guess you could say the Green Arrow and the Canary spin-off show. We also had important moments for Oliver, but other than that, it's not like there was some massive revelation like there has been in like the several previous Arrow episodes up until this point. However, that ending was very compelling. Like, I'm definitely interested to see what the heck they're going to do on the island and what that last step they need to take will be, or should I say will mean, for Crisis on Infinite Earths. But yeah, other than that, guys, it was a solid episode. It was a very enjoyable one if you've been a long-term fan of Arrow anyway. I think what this episode serves most of all for me as well is that it's really kind of spelling out that Crisis is in literally 2 weeks' time. And, you know, apart from the next episode of The Flash and Arrow, we're really diving into it. So we know that next episode for all the shows is going to be fairly big. I mean, on The Flash, we've got him fighting Bloodwork, and then before you know it, it's Crisis. And Arrow, we've got them on the island now, and whatever the heck that means, before you know it, it's also Crisis. So other than that, everyone, if you enjoyed this video and you got up to this point in the review, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button. If you found yourself brand new to the channel, why not hit that subscribe button? Or even if you are subscribed, or if you're not subscribed, hit the bell button as well so you're always alerted as to whenever I upload a video. Check out my past couple of videos that should be appearing on screen right now. One of them should be my Flash review that obviously aired last night alongside Arrow, so check that out if you're a fan of the Flash. But that is absolutely everything, guys. So yeah, back to Facecam next week should be. Hopefully there's no problems with that. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you vigilantes in the next video. Goodbye.